Hi, my name is Haley Anderson. This is week 9 of theater management for East Texas A&M University. We are discussing chapters 13 and 14, which is managing historical theaters and managing campus theaters. This week's readings were interesting, I think, in different ways than our previous ones have. I feel like theater managers face a lot of problems, and so I feel like adding these two different types of worlds probably adds more, and I'll discuss that as we go on. But I was intrigued in how different this could be. For the historical theaters first, I kind of started with a personal story. I've discussed it in previous videos, but just kind of adding on to it. The high school I work at is tearing down the auditorium. It's actually flat now, which is crazy. But with historical theaters comes so much nostalgia. I loved the way that this chapter started. The kiss in the balcony. That a theater can have so many small memories, not even just the shows, not even like I remember this show that I saw, but it can be like, this is the first time we held hands here. I love that. And it personally connected in different ways. My first kiss was on a stage, and so like I believe that truly, that theater, there's so many stories that aren't even on the stage. And so that can be hard, I think, in a historical theater. So for my personal example, a lot of people in town, the high school theater I think was built in 1939 and then redone in the 70s. Not well, but... And so many people were like, but this looks exactly how it looked when I went here. And it's hard to convince people how time has to go on, right? And if that theater had been properly maintained, who's to say how long that theater could have lasted? And so if you're running a well-maintained historical theater, that's so valuable and so important to a community, and what an amazing experience. But also you have to make money. And I used in my example of like Dear Evan Hansen, which is a show that requires so many screens and projections and movement, right? An old theater, to be able to bring in that type of show, has to move with the times, but has to also balance that old charm. So it's, how do you not disappoint new audiences, and how do you not disappoint old audiences? So that was a very interesting look at theater management. And then with campus theaters, honestly, from the outside, it looks like that would be the easiest, right? You got college kids working it, right? You don't have to hire a staff. I'm going to do all that stuff, is what you may think from just looking at it. But what was interesting was reading the different examples, like George Mason and Emerson College's examples specifically were the ones that intrigued me the most. Not allowing students in one theater was super weird, I thought, but I also can understand how maybe the university trying to maintain this theater, like I said, like the high school theater I worked for, was not properly maintained, and lost a lot of its charm, and its how would you say, lost a lot of its safety. And so I think that was a really good example. And then Emerson College, how like trying to get theaters or shows and things to be able to go and get audiences to come, while also just being a school like auditorium. It's, how do you do that balance? How do you balance being a professional theater? I went to West Texas A&M University for my undergrad, and I never thought about that stage being used for anything other than a school performance, but it's a great stage with a great curtain system and a great light system and fly system and all of the things, why aren't they having professional theaters go through there? You know, what an experience that could be to that small of a community, right? Or just an attraction. Now, I mean, the city nearby has great theaters, so I can see why maybe they aren't doing that. But schools that have that opportunity, that could be a really cool experience. So I think in that same realm, though, one thing I talked about was how do you balance education and we need money. I don't know a better way to say that, but because you ultimately, if you are a university, you are supposed to be educating kids, young adults, but you're supposed to be providing education. So how do you balance that with creating the function and showing these professional theaters to provide to your community that you'll be in, right? Because these students are there for 4 years, but your community you could be building for decades. And so you have to kind of find those balances. I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but both, I think, historical theater and campus theaters. Oh, there's one more point for campus. Hold on. Campus theaters, I think, add on another problem is you may know what your theater needs. That's not to say that your dean of your university does or cares, right? They may, because they want to have a great university, but they may not. And so I think that adds on a new challenge of you're dealing with more people who maybe are not experienced in the theatrical realm and are purely in the education realm, which could affect, right, the connection to community. So going back, I think that managing historical theaters and campus theaters adds on a new level of problems, and not necessarily bad problems. And there's some great things. I think that historical and campus, I think you have more dedicated audiences, right? We all love things that are shiny and new, but that nostalgia element will always be there. Especially, like, I think if you talk to a giant percentage of adults, their most nostalgic memories are from college. And so I think that with these historical theaters and college theaters, you're getting a true nostalgic look at things and a nostalgic audience, which can be a strong and committed audience, but also a very opinionated audience. And so I think that where historical theaters and campus theaters have a whole new set of problems, they also have a whole new set of pros that maybe a modern, new built community theater doesn't. I really enjoyed this week's reading. I love how it connects to everything we've learned before, but how it also kind of challenged a few of those mindsets. So, sorry this video was a little long, but thank you. Bye-bye.